Hi again to my junior high students. Welcome back to part 1 of Macbeth. First of all, though, you should have written your paper for me on whether you would like to have lived in medieval times. I didn't put any restrictions on this paper. I said it should be half a page to 3/4 of a page. I didn't put dress up and opener restrictions on this, but I did ask you to be specific about the things that you like or don't like, the reason you have your opinion. And in this, your paper that you're writing is a bit like the opinion paper, the argumentative essay that you just wrote, but it's more personal. So please send those to me as soon as you can. This week and next week, you will not have a writing assignment. Yay. And we are just going to tackle Macbeth together. I hope that you have a copy of Macbeth. I told you last week that you can get very cheaply and easily get a Kindle version. So if you have a Kindle or a tablet in the house, I hope you've done that. Or it is available, the complete play, for free online. I sent you a link to that. So, but I would urge you to either have it on a tablet in front of you or print it out, because I would like you to have the words in front of you somehow. So if you don't have that, I want you to pause the video or stop the video and make that happen. All right, and at the very least, you could print out, I know it's a lot of printing, but you could print out from the online free version. We are just going to read, my goal is to read the first 3 acts. Shakespeare plays, many plays of this time, are divided into 5 acts, and the acts are subdivided into scenes. Okay, that's the way a play is set up. At the beginning, you will notice a list of the characters, and it tells you who they are and what they are. All right, what their status is, what their station is. I spoke a little bit in the end of the previous video about Shakespeare and who he was. William Shakespeare was a great observer of human nature. He really knew what motivated people. He seemed to have great insight. Remember in the Joan of Arc book, it talks about him having the seeing eye. William Shakespeare had the seeing eye. And so I want to, in a moment, we're just going to finish up our Joan of Arc reading. We're going to finish that book. I actually have to jump up and grab my book because I didn't put it next to me. But I want to tell you a little bit more about Shakespeare. Shakespeare was among many other playwrights of the time, and each one often had their own theater. And Shakespeare's theater was called the Globe Theater. It was round. It was kind of like a stadium, like a modern stadium, round. And if you wanted to pay good money, you could sit in the seats. But if you just wanted to pay the cheapest, you could just stand on the ground in front of the stage, and you would be a groundling. Shakespeare plays are today thought of as being kind of very cultured and highfalutin, and it wasn't like that. Shakespeare plays were written for the common people, and the groundlings could get very rowdy, and they would drink and eat, and sometimes they'd pelt the actors with fruit if they didn't like what was going on, and it was just pretty wild down in the groundling section. This wasn't written for the noblemen. This was written for the common people. And as I said, he wrote histories, usually about the kings of England, comedies, which meant everyone got married and they had a happy ending, and tragedies that had not a happy ending, usually a lot of death, and often due to the fact that the main character has some sort of flaw in him. So as we read Macbeth here in a few minutes, I would like to look at the flaw. Do we see what drives Macbeth to do what he does? Now, some of you may have already read the play this week. Some of you maybe not. Some of you may have read some Shakespeare or seen some Shakespeare before. Some of you, this is your first exposure to Shakespeare. But we'll walk through it together and hopefully make it a little easier to understand. So, but first, before we do that, I apologize. I'm going to jump up and grab my Joan of Arc book so we can finish looking at that, because you finished reading that this week. Just a moment. I guess now I see why live television is so tough, because it's hard to get everything ready. I don't have a lot to say about the rest of our Joan of Arc book. It's a horrible, sad ending, isn't it? It's amazing that the King of France never ransomed her. And it's amazing that they railroaded her in the way they did. Did you catch the main problem? She wore men's clothing, which according to scripture is wrong. But remember, and I told you this earlier in the book, the church council, the church courts, had previously okayed it. They said, she's doing a man's work, she should wear a man's clothing. She can't run around leading battles in a dress. It was already okayed. And now here's another branch of the church saying it's not okay. But it's not really another branch of the church, remember. It's a branch of England. England is using the church, promising this Cochon, the leader of the inquiry, offices, church offices. Now, at the end of our reading last week, they had boiled it down to 12 articles, 12 points they were going to really focus on. And it's kind of funny because they ended up having a logic problem. He says, the university decided that it was blasphemy for Joan to say that her saints spoke French and not English, and were on the French side in political sympathies. I think that the thing which troubled the doctors of theology was this. They had decided that the three voices were Satan and two other devils. But they had also decided that these voices were not on the French side, thereby tacitly asserting that they were on the English side. And if on the English side, they must be angels and not devils. You see, on the one case, they say, oh, her voices, they're devils. But then later, they say they can't possibly be on the French side, so they must be on the English side. So devils are on the English side? They can't say that. So they have to switch it. And so our Pierre de Lecomte, a.k.a. Mark Twain, tells us, oh, in this article, they say they're devils, but in this article, they claim they're angels because they're pro-English. So the whole thing, it was illogical, it was immoral, the whole thing was a setup. She was railroaded to death. Later, remember, they take her to the stake the first time, and they say, abjure. She doesn't even know what that means. She's tired, she's malnourished, she's just exhausted after a year of hours of inquiry and terrible living conditions. She should have been in a church prison, and she wasn't, where conditions would have been better. They should have given her female attendants, and they didn't. So she goes, and she's terrified, and who wouldn't be? And she doesn't even know what abjure means, and basically she breaks down and says, I'll sign whatever you want, on the understanding that they would move her to a church prison, or that they would let her go. And then she finds out that now that she's going to be imprisoned for life there. So they trick her. They give her a dress. She says, yes, I'll do it. I'll wear your dress. And then it says, while Joan slept, in the early morning of Sunday, one of the guards stole her female apparel and put her male attire in its place. When she woke, she asked for the other dress, but the guards refused to give it back. She protested and said she was forbidden to wear the male dress, but they continued to refuse. She had to have clothing for modesty's sake. Moreover, she saw that she could not save her life if she must fight for it against treacheries like this. So she put on the forbidden garments, knowing what the end would be. She was weary of the struggle, poor thing. They tricked her. They forced her into putting on the men's clothing, which was one of the things she had abjured, recanted, said she wouldn't do. Why did they do this? Well, earlier in the book, they say that they don't want to just condemn her and get rid of her. They want to shame her in front of France so that she won't be a martyr, a rallying point for them. And the way to do that is to make her look bad. And the way to make her look bad was to force her to recant and then make it so she has to go back on it. They have to discredit her in the eyes of France. Well, that was the last straw. They felt like they had done the thing that would discredit her, and she is executed, staring at a cross that someone held up. But 20 years later or so, our author here has talked about the rehabilitation. And I've told you that's a court that was convened, a church court looking back into the charges against Joan to wipe away the stain of having been condemned as a heretic. And we might ask ourselves, why? What was the motivation of this? Oh, we're going to ring 8 o'clock. Sorry. I hope you can still hear me. I love my chiming clock. Hopefully it gives these videos a little homely ambiance. So it says towards the very end of the book that the king had been indifferent all that time. Then he suddenly changed and was anxious to have justice for poor Joan himself. Why? Had he become grateful at last? Had remorse attacked his hard heart? No, he had a better reason, a better one for his sort of man. His better reason was that now that the English had been finally expelled from the country, they were beginning to call attention to the fact that this king had gotten his crown by the hands of a person proven by the priests to have been in league with Satan and burned for it by them as a sorceress. Therefore, of what value or authority was such a kingship as that? Of no value at all. No nation could afford to allow such a king to remain on the throne. All right. He can't really be king, and having been made king by a convicted heretic that consorts with Satan. So he's got to remove the stain. You see, the King of France also is motivated by politics. Joan seems to be the only one motivated by patriotism, love of God, and love of country, I would say. Everyone around her, though, is motivated by personal aspirations and considerations, not by just what is right, what is true. So at the end, our author tells us she will stand forever for that patriotism, that love of country that motivated her through her love of God. I hope you enjoyed reading about Joan of Arc. I think it's a fantastic book. I love Mark Twain, and I love Tom Sawyer and Huckleberry Finn and his other writings, but this one's so different, and it gives me insight into a different side of Mark Twain. Okay, I'm going to sip my cocoa. Maybe you should get a hot drink too, and let's settle down and let's read Macbeth together. All right, Act 1, Scene 1. Now, I am not going to tell you each time the speaker changes. That's why I want you to have it in front of you, because it would make it very awkward. All right, I'm going to pause in between, and if it's really important who's speaking and I want to point it out, I will stop. But that's why I want you to have some sort of copy of it in front of you, okay, so you know who's speaking. In the first scene, we meet 3 witches out in the middle of nowhere. When shall we 3 meet again, in thunder, lightning, or in rain? When the hurly-burly's done, when the battle's lost and won. Lost and won? Those are opposites. These witches say weird things. We're going to find out in a minute that there is a battle going on and it's being won. I wonder what battle's being lost. We'll see. That will be ere the set of sun. Where the place? Upon the heath. there to meet with Macbeth. I come, Grey Malkin. Paddock calls. Anon. Grey Malkin and Paddock are like animal spirits that witches use as their sidekicks, their helpers. And they all say, fair is foul and foul is fair, hover through the fog and filthy air. Again, fair is foul and foul is fair. They say opposites. I wonder what we can figure out about the witches by that. Do they always mean what they say, I wonder? I don't think they do. Okay, that's the end of scene 1. They've set up a time to meet Macbeth. Scene 2. We move to an army camp. And in the army camp is the king. He's named Duncan. His sons Malcolm and Donalbain. And some of his officers and noblemen, Lennox. And they're just all, obviously, there's a battle going on. And the king, Duncan, says, what bloody man is that? He can report, as seemeth by his plight, of the revolt of the new estate. Oh, who's that bloody guy? Oh, maybe he can give us information about this revolt, this rebel we're putting down. Malcolm, his son, answers, this is the sergeant, who like a good and hardy soldier fought against my captivity. Hail, brave friend! Say to the king the knowledge of the broil, as thou didst leave it. What was happening with the battle when you left it? The captain says, doubtful it stood, as two spent swimmers that do cling together and choke their art. The merciless MacDonwald, worthy to be a rebel, for to that the multiplying villainies of nature do swarm upon him. From the western isles of kerns and gallow glasses is supplied. All right, so there's a rebel named MacDonwald, and he's rebelling against the king, and he's been supplied with kerns, which are Irish soldiers, and gallow glasses, retainers of the Irish chiefs. In other words, the Irish are helping him rebel. And fortune, on his damned quarrel smiling, showed like a rebel's whore. But all's too weak, for brave Macbeth, well he deserves that name, disdaining fortune, with his brandished steel, which smoked with bloody execution, like valor's minion, carved out his passage till he faced the slave, which never shook hands nor bade farewell to him, until he unseamed him from the nave to the chops, and fixed his head upon our battlements. Oh my, Macbeth went up to the rebel, didn't shake hands with him or anything, or greet him in any way, but just slit him open from his belly button to his neck, and then chopped off his head and put it on the battlements. Rebel taken care of. And the king says, oh, valiant cousin, worthy gentleman. The captain continues, as whence the sun 'gainst his reflection shipwracking storms and direful thunders break, so from that spring whence comfort seemed to come, discomfort swells. You know, just like when a storm looks like it's wearing out, and it swings back again, we've got more problems. Mark, King of Scotland, mark. Pay attention to this. No sooner justice had with valor armed compelled these skipping kerns to trust their heels, but the Norwegian lord, surveying vantage, with furbished arms and new supplies of men began a fresh assault. Then the guy from Norway attacked us. We thought we were done, and the guy from Norway attacked us. Dismayed this not our captains, Macbeth and Banquo? Weren't Macbeth and Banquo upset? Yes, as sparrows, eagles, or the hare, the lion. You know how sparrows scare eagles? They don't. How rabbits scare lions? They don't. That's how much the Norwegian king scared Macbeth. If I say sooth, I must report they were as cannons overcharged with double cracks, so they doubly redoubled strokes upon the foe. Except they meant to bathe in reeking wounds or memorize another Golgotha, I cannot tell. But I am faint. My gashes cry for help. You know, Macbeth was awesome, but hey, I'm wounded. I need some help. So well thy words become thee as thy wounds. They smack of honor both. Go get him to a surgeon. Okay? Now, two more noblemen, Ross and Angus, come in. And Duncan says, who comes here? The worthy Thane of Ross. What a haste looks through his eyes! So should he look that seems to speak things strange. Ooh, I think he has strange news. He has a look about him. Ross says, God save the king. Whence camest thou, worthy Thane? From Fife, great king, where the Norwegian banners flout the sky and fan our people cold. Oh shoot, that Norwegian guy, he took over the manor house of Fife. Norway himself, with terrible numbers, assisted by that most disloyal traitor, the Thane of Cawdor, began a dismal conflict, till that Bellona's bridegroom, lapped in proof, confronted him with self-comparisons. He looked like an ancient Greek god of war. Confronted him with self-comparisons, point against point, rebellious arm against arm, curbing his lavish spirit. And to conclude, the victory fell on us. All right, so they confronted this god of war with another god of war, Macbeth. Macbeth confronted him with self-comparisons. Hey, you look like a god of war, so do I. And Macbeth took him down. So here we find out that the Thane of Cawdor, Thane is a nobleman, like an earl in Scotland, and he had turned traitor. He was working with the Norwegian guy, and Macbeth just took him out too. Duncan says, great happiness. Ross continues, now that Sweno, the Norway's king, craves composition, nor would we deign him burial of his men till he disbursed at St. Colm's Inch $10,000 to our general use. We made him pay ransom. No more that Thane of Cawdor shall deceive our bosom interest. Go pronounce his present death, and with his former title greet Macbeth. I'll see it done. What he hath lost, noble Macbeth hath won. All right, that Thane of Cawdor, we're executing him for treason. And now we're going to give all his title and lands to Macbeth. Macbeth is now going to be Thane of Cawdor. We're going to find out later, he's already Thane of Glamis. That's his title. But now he's got two Thaneships, all right? He's Thane of Glamis and Thane of Cawdor, and he gets all the stuff. Okay, now we change scenes, and we're back with those witches, back in the middle of nowhere. And the witches are talking to each other about what they've been doing. Where hast thou been, sister? Killing swine. Well, that's a good thing to do. Sister, where thou? A sailor's wife had chestnuts in her lap, and munched and munched and munched. Give me, quoth I. Aroint thee, witch, the rump-fed Runyon cries. Her husband's to Aleppo gone, master of the tiger, but in a sieve I'll thither sail, and like a rat without a tail, I'll do, and I'll do. So the first witch says, yeah, I was out just messing around, and there was this lady, she had chestnuts, and she wouldn't give me any. So her husband's a ship captain. The ship's called the Tiger. I'm going to go mess with him, just to punish her, just because I can. The second witch says, I'll give thee wind. Thou art kind, and I another. I myself have all the other, and the very ports they blow, all the quarters that they know in the shipman's card. I'll drain him dry as hay. Sleep shall neither night nor day hang upon his penthouse lid. He shall live a man forbid. Weary 7 nights 9 times 9 shall he dwindle, peak, and pine. Though his bark cannot be lost, yet it shall be tempest-tossed. Look what I have. Show me, show me. Here I have a pilot's thumb, racked as homeward he did come. These ladies are, you don't mess with them. They're nasty. They have dead people's thumbs to brew potions with, and they go ruin guys and not let them sleep just because his wife wouldn't give her some chestnuts. Then they hear a drum. A drum, a drum, Macbeth doth come. Now they start dancing. The weird sisters, hand in hand, posters of the sea and land, thus do go about, about, thrice to thine, thrice to mine, and thrice again to make up 9. Peace, the charm's wound up. Right, they're doing a little dance to make a magic charm. Now we meet Macbeth for the first time. He says, so foul and fair a day I have not seen. Wait, that sounds a lot like what the witches said, doesn't it? Fair is foul and foul is fair. Notice that Macbeth sort of talks like the witches already, and he hasn't even met them yet. Maybe he just means it's a foul day because there was treachery and death, but it's a fair day because they won the battle. Nevertheless, he does talk like the witches. Okay, he's got a best friend, Banquo, who's with him. And Banquo says, "How far is it called to Forres?" And then they see the witches. "What are these so withered and so wild in their attire, that look not like the inhabitants of the earth, and yet are on it? Live you, or are you aught that man may question? You seem to understand me, by each at once her choppy finger laying upon her skinny lips. You should be women, and yet your beards forbid me to interpret that you are so." Okay, Bank was like, "You're weird. You're weird looking. You're women, but you've got beards, and I don't know what you're doing out here." Macbeth says, "Speak if you can. What are you?" "All hail, Macbeth! Hail to thee, Thane of Glamis! All hail, Macbeth! Hail to thee, Thane of Cawdor! All hail, Macbeth, that shalt be king hereafter." Apparently, this really startles Macbeth, because Banquo says, "Good sir, why do you start, and seem to fear things that do sound so fair? In the name of truth, are ye fantastical, or that indeed which outwardly ye show? My noble partner you greet with present grace and great prediction, that he seems rapt withal. You've said such great things to my friend here, that he's just sort of in a trance. To me you speak not. If you can look into the seeds of time, and say which grain will grow and which will not, speak then to me, who neither beg nor fear your favors nor your hate. Hey, you got anything to say to me? You're saying things to my friend. You got any predictions for me?" And they say, "Hail, hail, hail! Lesser than Macbeth, but greater. Not so happy, yet much happier. Thou shalt get kings, though thou be none. So all hail Macbeth and Banquo. Banquo and Macbeth all hail." So they tell Banquo, "You're not going to be king, but your descendants," he says, "you shall get kings. Your descendants will be kings." Macbeth says, "Stay, you imperfect speakers, tell me more. By Sinel's death I know that I am Thane of Glamis. But how of Cawdor? The Thane of Cawdor lives, a prosperous gentleman, and to be king stands not within the prospect of belief, no more than to be Cawdor. Say from whence you owe this strange intelligence, or why upon this blasted heath you stop our way with such prophetic greeting. Speak, I charge you." But they vanish. Macbeth says, "How can I be Thane of Cawdor? The Thane of Cawdor is alive. I can't be that while he's alive." He doesn't know that the Thane of Cawdor was a traitor and is being executed. He doesn't know. Okay. Banquo, after they disappear, Banquo says, "The earth hath bubbles, as the water has, and these are of them. And whither have they vanished? Into the air. And what seemed corporal, what seemed to have a body, melted as breath into the wind. Would they had stayed. Were such things here as we do speak about? Did we really see this? Or have we eaten on the insane root that takes the reason prisoner? We drugged?" Macbeth says, "Your children shall be kings." Banquo answers, "You shall be king. And Thane of Cawdor too, win it not so?" To the self-same tune and words. Oh, who's here? Ross and Angus, two of Duncan's lords, are coming in. Ross says, "The king hath happily received, Macbeth, the news of thy success, and when he reads thy personal venture in the rebels' fight, his wonders and his praises do contend which should be thine or his." Like, he's so amazed with all the stuff you did. Wonders and praises are fighting back and forth to know which should win. Silenced with that, in viewing o'er the rest of the selfsame day, he finds thee in the stout Norwegian ranks, nothing afeard of what thyself didst make, strange images of death. He's heard stories about you just crazy great in battle, not afraid at all. As thick as tail came post with post, and every one did bear thy praises in his kingdom's great defense, and poured them down before him. We just had messenger after messenger come, and they all said, "Macbeth's awesome. Macbeth keeps winning. Macbeth's the guy." Angus continues, "We are sent to give thee from our royal master thanks, only to herald thee into his sight, not pay thee." We're just going to bring you to the king, but he's going to be rewarding you. "And for an earnest of greater honor, he bade me from him call thee Thane of Cawdor, in which addition, hail, most worthy Thane, for it is thine." Oh my gosh, the witches just said he's Thane of Cawdor, and now he suddenly is. Banquo says, "What? Can the devil speak true? Those weird, devilish, demonic-looking ladies? They told the truth." Macbeth says, "The Thane of Cawdor lives. Why do you dress me in borrowed robes?" "Who was the Thane lives yet, but under heavy judgment bears that life which he deserves to lose. Whether he was combined with those of Norway, or did line the rebel with hidden help and vantage, or that with both he labored in his country's wrack, I know not. But treason's capital, confessed and proved, have overthrown him." Again, I don't know whether he actually gave him soldiers. I don't know whether he just helped him with money and lining things up for him. But either way, he's a traitor and he's going to die. And Macbeth, he sort of comments this to himself. Glamis and Thane of Cawdor. The greatest is behind. King. Then he says, "Thanks for your pains." Then he turns to Banquo. "Do you not hope your children shall be kings, when those that gave the Thane of Cawdor to me promised no less to them?" Banquo answers, "That trusted home might yet enkindle you unto the crown. Besides the Thane of Cawdor, if you believe they told the truth, you're aspiring to be king. But 'tis strange, and oftentimes to win us to our harm, the instruments of darkness tell us truths, win us with honest trifles, to betray us in deepest consequence." Banquo says, be careful, because you know how the devil and demons work? They tell you a little bit of truth to suck you in, then they turn on you. Be careful. And Banquo turns to the earls and he says, "Cousins, a word, I pray you." And Macbeth's now alone on the side and he's talking to himself. "Two truths are told, as happy prologues of the swelling act of this imperial theme." Two truths. Glamis and Cawdor. What about that kingship? And then he turns, "I thank you, gentlemen," because they've spoken to him. Then he starts talking to himself again. "This supernatural soliciting cannot be ill, cannot be good. If ill, why hath it given me earnest of success, commencing in a truth? I am Thane of Cawdor. If they're evil, if this is ill, why did they tell me the truth? If good, why do I yield to that suggestion whose horrid image doth unfix my hair and make my seated heart knock at my ribs against the use of nature? If it's good, then why are they making me think evil things? What evil thing could he be thinking? Well, he's going to be king, but there already is a king. How could he get to be king? He could kill the king, right? He's already thinking about it, and we're going to find out later in the play that he has been considering this. Present fears are less than horrible imaginings. My thought, whose murder yet is but fantastical, shakes so my single state of man, that function is smothered in surmise, and nothing is but what is not. All right. Right now, I'm just thinking these things. I haven't done anything about it yet. All right. But I'm entranced by it. I can't stop thinking about it. Okay, Banquo points him out. Look how our partner's wrapped. And Macbeth's still talking to himself. If chance will have me king, why chance may crown me without my stir. You know, if the fates want me to be king, they can do it without me doing anything. Banquo continues talking about Macbeth. New honors come upon him, like our strange garments, cleave not to their mold, but with the aid of use. He's just sort of amazed that he's Thane of Cawdor. He's trying to get used to the idea. But Macbeth keeps talking to himself. Come what come may, time and hour runs through the roughest day. What will happen will happen. Banquo calls him, Worthy Macbeth, we stay upon your leisure. Oh, give me your favor. My dull brain was wrought with things forgotten. Kind gentlemen, your pains are registered where every day I turn the leaf to read them. In his brain, in other words. I will always remember the kind things you've done here. Let us toward the king. And then he says to Banquo, Think upon what hath chanced, and at more time, the interim having weighed it, let us speak our free hearts each to the other. Banquo says, Very gladly. Till then, enough. Come, friends. He says, Banquo, let's talk about this later. I want to talk more about this witch thing and this prediction thing later. Scene 4. In Scene 4, we have report coming back of the execution of the traitorous Thane of Cawdor. And they're telling the king what happened. Duncan, the king, says, Is execution done on Cawdor? Are not those in commission yet returned? His son Malcolm says, My liege, they are not yet come back, but I have spoke with one that saw him die, who did report that very frankly he confessed his treasons, implored your highness's pardon, and set forth a deep repentance. Nothing in his life became him like the leaving it. He died as one that had been studied in his death to throw away the dearest thing he owed as 'twere a careless trifle. He died well. He was sorry. He was brave. He admitted he deserved this. He fessed up completely. And Duncan says, There's no art to find the mind's construction in the face. I don't know how to look at a man and know whether or not he's true blue and on my side or not. He goes on to say, He was a gentleman on whom I built an absolute trust. I trusted the Thane of Cawdor. I couldn't tell that he was against me, that he would ever turn against me. And right then Macbeth comes in. You know, Duncan has just said he's bad at being able to tell whether someone's on his side or not. And here comes Macbeth. Macbeth is not on his side. He greets him, though. O worthiest cousin, the sin of my ingratitude even now was heavy on me. Thou art so far before that swiftest wing of recompense is slow to overtake thee. You're so great that my repayment, no matter what I give you, is going to seem like not enough. My recompense is slow. Would thou hadst less deserved, that the proportion both of thanks and payment might have been mine. I wish you deserved less so that I could actually pay you what I owe you, but I owe you so much I can't even pay it. Only I have left to say, more is thy due than more than all can pay. Macbeth says, The service and the loyalty I owe in doing it pays itself. Serving the king is its own reward. Your highness's part is to receive our duties, and our duties are to your throne and state, children and servants, which do but what they should by doing everything safe toward your love and honor. I've only done my duty. Welcome hither. I have begun to plant thee, and will labor to make thee full of growing. Noble Banquo, thou hast no less deserved, nor must be known no less to have done so. Let me enfold thee and hold thee to my heart. Banquo says, There if I grow, the harvest is your own. If you plant me and hold me close to your heart, you'll be the winner. The harvest will be your own, because I'll keep serving you. The king continues, My plenteous joys, wanton in fullness, seek to hide themselves in drops of sorrow. Sons, kinsmen, thanes, and you whose places are the nearest, know we will establish our estate upon our eldest, Malcolm, whom we name hereafter the Prince of Cumberland, which honor must not unaccompanied invest him only, but signs of nobleness like stars shall shine on all deservers. From hence to Inverness, and bind us further to you. Okay, so he says, first of all, I'm going to name my eldest son Malcolm my heir. He's now Prince of Cumberland, which makes him the heir apparent. He will be the next king. But he says, but I'm not only going to honor him, Signs of nobleness like stars shall shine on all deservers. I'm going to reward everybody. Everybody who helped me through this terrible treachery and civil war and all this, I'm going to help you all. I'm going to give you all honors. Now, hey, let's go to Inverness. That's where Macbeth's castle is. Let's all go to Macbeth's house. Macbeth says, "The rest is labor which is not used for you." Even if I'm resting, if I'm not doing it for you, it's like work. I want to do everything for you, Duncan. "I'll be myself the harbinger, and make joyful the hearing of my wife with your approach. So humbly take my leave." Hey, I'm going to go tell everybody you're on the way. "My worthy Cawdor." Oh, but Macbeth does another talking to himself, and he says, "The Prince of Cumberland. That is a step on which I must fall down, or leap, for in my way it lies. Shoot, I was going to be the next king. And now Malcolm's going to be the next king. He's Prince of Cumberland. What am I going to do about that?" "Stars, hide your fires. Let not light see my black and deep desires. The eye wink at the hand, yet let that be which the eye fears when it is done to see." Oh, stars, don't look at what I'm thinking about doing. I want something to happen. I want to get rid of the king. But don't look. I don't want anybody to see, because it's so evil. It's so horrible. Duncan continues, "True, worthy Banquo, he is full so valiant, and in his commendations I am fed. It is a banquet to me. Let's after him, whose care is gone before to bid us welcome. It is a peerless kinsman." That Macbeth, he's a great guy. Let's go to his house. Okay, now we shift in scene 5, and we're at Macbeth's house, and we meet his wife, Lady Macbeth, and she's reading a letter. Somehow in this, Macbeth has written a letter and sent it on ahead to her. And in the first part of this, she's reading the letter. "They met me in the day of success, and I have learned by the perfectest report they have more in them than mortal knowledge. When I burnt in desire to question them further, they made themselves air into which they vanished. Whilst I stood wrapped in the wonder of it, came missives from the king, who all hailed me Thane of Cawdor, by which title before these weird sisters saluted me, and referred me to the coming on of time with Hail, King that shalt be. This have I thought good to deliver thee, my dearest partner of greatness, that thou mightst not lose the dues of rejoicing by being ignorant of what greatness is promised thee. Lay it to thy heart, and farewell." Okay, so that's the letter. He's written to her about his visit with the witches, that he's going to be king, which means she's going to be queen. I just wanted to let you know. Now she's going to start talking. Now, in Shakespeare plays, people often talk to themselves, and it's called a soliloquy, and it shows us what they're thinking. You know, we can't read minds, so something needs to come out of their mouths, and often people will say things when they're alone that they wouldn't say around other people. So that's the purpose of this. So she's going to talk to herself, but really to us. "Glamis thou art, and Cawdor, and shalt be what thou art promised. Yet do I fear thy nature. It is too full of the milk of human kindness to catch the nearest way." Okay, what would be the nearest way to become king? Kill the king. Get rid of him immediately. But she says, "I'm afraid you're too nice for that. Too full of the milk of human kindness. Thou wouldst be great, art not without ambition, but without the illness should attend it." You know, you want to be great, but sometimes you got to be deceitful and tricky and just downright bad to be great. You're without the illness that should attend it. "What thou wouldst highly, that wouldst thou holily." The thing you want a lot, what thou wouldst highly, that wouldst thou holily. You want to do it in the right way. You want to be good. "Wouldst not play false, and yet would strongly win." You don't want to do anything wrong, but you want the fruits of doing wrong. "Thou'dst have, great Glamis, that which cries, 'Thus thou must do,' if thou have it, and that which rather thou dost fear to do than wishest should be undone. All right, same theme. You want what you know in your heart says, well, if you want that, you've got to do this. This thou must do. But you don't want to do it. Hie thee hither, that I may pour my spirits in thine ear, and chastise with the valor of my tongue all that impedes thee from the golden round. What's the golden round? The crown, which fate and metaphysical aid doth seem to have crowned thee withal. All right, come home, Macbeth. I'm just going to give you a talking to, and I'm going to tell you what you need to do, because I want to be queen. A messenger comes in, and she says, what is your tidings? The king comes here tonight. Thou art mad to say it. Is not thy master with him? Who, were it so, would have informed for preparation? Macbeth would have told me so I could get ready. So please you, it is true, our Thane is coming. One of my fellows had the speed of him, who almost dead for breath had scarcely more than would make up his message. A guy just ran here all the way and told us. It's true. Give him tending. He brings great news. All right, now she's alone again, and she's going to start talking. The raven himself is hoarse that croaks the fatal entrance of Duncan under my battlements. Oh my, the fatal entrance of Duncan. She's planning something already. Come, you spirits that tend on mortal thoughts, unsex me here and fill me from the crown to the toe, top full of direst cruelty. Unsex me. She says, I'm a girl, I'm a woman, and I'm supposed to be tender and soft and motherly and feeling. I don't want to be that anymore. Take it all away. She's talking to spirits that tend on mortal thoughts. Doesn't necessarily sound angelic. It was like some other kind of spirit. She's saying, just take away all my womanly sensibilities. Make thick my blood, stop up the access and passage to remorse, that no compunctious visitings of nature shake my fell purpose, nor keep peace between the effect and it. I don't even want to feel remorse anymore. No sorrow. Come to my woman's breasts and take my milk for gall, you murdering ministers. I don't want to be motherly. Wherever in your sightless substances you wait on nature's mischief. Come, thick night, and pall thee in the dunnest smoke of hell, that my keen knife see not the wound it makes, nor heaven peep through the blanket of the dark to cry, hold, hold. I want darkness and smoke to surround me. I don't want anyone to see or know what I'm planning to do. I don't want any voice coming down like when Abraham was going to sacrifice Isaac and say, stop, stop. I don't want that. Excuse me. Okay. Macbeth comes in and she says, Great Glamis, worthy Cawdor, greater than both by the all hail hereafter. Thy letters have transported me beyond this ignorant present, and I feel now the future in the instant. I feel like I'm already queen. My dearest love, Duncan comes here tonight. She says, when goes hence? Tomorrow, as he purposes. She says, oh, never shall sun that morrow see. I don't ever want to see him leave. Your face, my Thane, is as a book where men may read strange matters. To beguile the time, look like the time. Bear welcome in your eye, your hand, your tongue. Look like the innocent flower, but be the serpent under it. He that's coming must be provided for, and you shall put this night's great business into my dispatch, which shall to all our nights and days to come give solely sovereign sway and masterdom. Hey, Macbeth, greet him, act nice, act friendly, but be a serpent. And don't worry, I'll take care of all the details. Macbeth says, we will speak further. Only look up clear. To alter favor ever is to fear. Leave all the rest to me. To alter favor ever is to fear. If you look suspicious, people are going to suspect you later. You gotta look normal. You gotta look friendly. Okay, now we shift scenes again, and we're back with Duncan, and he's approaching Macbeth's castle. And he says, "This castle hath a pleasant seat. The air nimbly and sweetly recommends itself unto our gentle senses." Okay, poor Duncan. He already said he wasn't very good at being able to tell whether or not someone was on his side or not by looking at his face. Apparently he doesn't read atmosphere either, because Macbeth's castle is an absolute hellhole of murder. But he says, "Oh, what a nice place. The air is so nice here." Banquo says, "This guest of summer, the temple-haunting martlet, does approve, by his loved mansionry, that the heaven's breath smells wooingly here." What does that mean? Martins? House Martins build their houses here. So they agree. They like it here. "No jutty, frieze, buttress, nor coign of vantage, but this bird hath made his pendant bed and procreant cradle. Where they most breed and haunt, I have observed the air is delicate." Banquo's agreeing with him. Oh yeah, House Martins love to live here. Look all in the castle. They build their little nests. Lady Macbeth comes out to greet him, and he says, See, our honored hostess, the love that follows us sometime is our trouble, which still we thank is love." Sometimes when the king travels around, it causes trouble to people. They've got to make extra preparation. "Herein I teach you how you shall bid God gild us for your pains, and thank us for your trouble." She says, "Oh, no trouble. All our service in every point twice done, and then done double. We're poor and single business to contend against those honors deep and broad, wherewith your majesty loads our house. Hey, you've given us all sorts of honors, Glamis, Cawdor. This is the least we can do. For those of old and the late dignities heaped up to them, we rest your hermits. We're like a monastery here to serve your needs. Where's the Thane of Cawdor? We coursed him at the heels, and had a purpose to be his purveyor. But he rides well, and his great love, sharp as his spur, hath holp him to his home before us. We were right behind him. Oh, but he was so excited he just rode on ahead. Fair and noble hostess, we are your guests tonight." She says, "Your servants ever have theirs themselves, and what is theirs in compt, to make their audit at your highness's pleasure, still to return your own." We're your servants, and everything we have is really yours. So when we give it back to you, we're just giving back what's yours anyway. Still to return your own. He says, "Give me your hand. Conduct me to mine host. We love him highly, and shall continue our graces towards him. By your leave, hostess." All right. Now, it's later that night, and they're having a dinner for the king. But Macbeth is by himself. He's out in a courtyard, and he's talking to himself. He's mulling over his plans. "If it were done when 'tis done, then 'twere well it were done quickly. If there were no consequences," in other words, if it were done when 'tis done, if I kill him and there's no consequence, then I should just go ahead and do it. "If the assassination could trammel up the consequence, and catch with his surcease success, but this blow might be the be-all and the end-all. Here, upon this bank and shoal of time, we jump the life to come. If only there were no consequences. If only success would end it. And we'd be happy here. Oh, and only if we could jump over the life to come. No eternal punishment. But in these cases, we still have judgment here, that we but teach bloody instructions, which being taught, return to plague the inventor." In the Bible it says, "He that lives by the sword shall die by the sword." It's kind of what he's saying here. When you take a path of violence, it often comes back, he says, to plague the inventor. "This even-handed justice commends the ingredients of our poisoned chalice to our own lips." Justice comes and you try to poison someone else and you end up drinking it yourself. "He's here in double trust. First, as I am his kinsman and his subject, strong both against the deed, Then as his host, who should against his murderer shut the door, not bear the knife myself. Okay, there's a lot of reasons not to kill him. First, I'm related to him and he's my king. Second of all, he's my guest. You don't murder guests. Besides, this Duncan hath borne his faculties so meek, hath been so clear in his great office, that his virtues will plead like angels, trumpet-tongued against the deep damnation of his taking off, and pity, like a naked newborn babe, striding the blast, or heaven's cherubim, horsed upon the sightless coursers of the air, shall blow the horrid deed in every eye, that tears shall drown the wind. This Duncan, he's borne his faculties so meek, he's been clear in his great office, he's a good king. That all his virtues will make his murder look terrible. All right, shall blow the horrid deed in every eye. That tears shall drown the wind. Everyone will cry for him. I have no spur to prick the sides of my intent, but only vaulting ambition, which o'erleaps itself and falls on the other. And then Lady Macbeth interrupts him there. What reason do I have to do this? Only ambition. I want to be king. There's no other good reason to do it. And that's not a particularly good reason. He realizes that. Lady Macbeth comes in and he says, How now? What news? He hath almost supped. Why have you left the chamber? Hath he asked for me? Know you not he has? Macbeth says, We will proceed no further in this business. He hath honored me of late, and I have bought golden opinions from all sorts of people, which would be worn now in their newest gloss, not cast aside so soon. I'm not going to kill him. I'm not going to do it. Just lay off. Because, you know what, he's giving me honors, everybody's praising me. Why should I ruin that? Why should I mess with that? She says, Was the hope drunk wherein you dressed yourself? Hath it slept since? And wakes it now to look so green and pale at what it did so freely? From this time such I account thy love. Art thou afeard to be the same in thine own act and valor as thou art in desire? Wouldst thou have that which thou esteemest the ornament of life, and live a coward in thine own esteem, letting I dare not wait upon I would, like the poor cat in the adage? Apparently the adage is the cat would eat fish, but would not wet her feet. You want something, but you won't do what it takes to get it. She just chewed him out. What are you, a coward? Didn't you promise you'd do this? Don't you think I want to be queen? Macbeth says, Prithee, peace. I dare do all that may become a man. Who dares do more is none. I'm a man, and I'll do everything that's fitting for a man to do. But when I cross the line and do things a man shouldn't do, like kill his king and his guest, I'm not a man anymore. She answers, What beast was it then that made you break this enterprise to me? Why'd you get my hopes up if you were going to do it? When you durst do it, then you were a man. And to be more than what you were, you would be so much more the man. Nor time nor place did then adhere, and yet you would make both. They have made themselves, and that their fitness now does unmake you. You know, when you didn't have an opportunity to do this, you said you'd do it. Now you have the perfect opportunity, and you won't. I have given suck, and know how tender 'tis to love the babe that milks me. I would, while it was smiling in my face, have plucked my nipple from his boneless gums and dashed the brains out, had I so sworn as you have done to this. Oh my goodness, she wanted to not be motherly anymore, and she got her wish. Hey, you know, I have a baby. I know what it's like to have a baby. I just bash his brains out if I promised you. Macbeth says, If we should fail? What if we can't pull it off? She says, We fail? But screw your courage to the sticking place, and will not fail. When Duncan is asleep, whereto the rather shall his day's hard journey soundly invite him? His 2 chamberlains will I with wine and wassail so convince, that memory, the warder of the brain, shall be a fume, and the receipt of reason a limbeck only. I'm going to get his guards, his grooms, drunk. When in swinish sleep their drenched natures lie as in a death, what cannot you and I perform upon the unguarded Duncan? What not put upon his spongy officers, who shall bear the guilt of our great quell? We'll make it look like they did it. Macbeth says, bring forth men children only, for thy undaunted mettle should compose nothing but males. Oh, you're a man through and through. You should only have men children. Will it not be received when we have marked with blood those sleepy two of his own chamber, and used their very daggers that they have done it? If we use their knives and smear them with blood, it's going to totally look like they did it. Who dares receive it other? As we shall make our griefs and clamor roar upon his death. We're going to look all sorry afterwards. I am settled, and bend up each corporal agent to this terrible feat. Away, and mock the time with fairest show. False face must hide what the false heart doth know. Okay, I'll do it. But till then we have to pretend to be friendly and normal. Now the scene shifts, and we're to a courtyard of the castle, and Banquo and his son Fleance are there. Banquo says, how goes the night, boy? The moon is down. I have not heard the clock. And she goes down at 12. I take it 'tis later, sir. Banquo says, here, take my sword. There's husbandry in heaven. The candles are all out. Husbandry means economy, saving money. It's like the heavens are saving money because they blew out all the candles. In other words, he doesn't see any stars. It's very dark. Take thee that too. It says it gives him his belt and his dagger. A heavy summons lies like lead upon me, and yet I would not sleep. Merciful powers, restrain in me the cursed thoughts that nature gives way to in repose. I'm tired. I'm going to go to bed now, but I hope I don't have any bad dreams. Macbeth comes in, and he doesn't know who it is yet. So he says, give me my sword. Who's there? Macbeth says, a friend. What, sir, not yet at rest? The king's abed. He hath been an unusual pleasure, and sent forth great largesse to your offices. Lots of praise, lots of rewards for you. This diamond he greets your wife withal, by the name of most kind hostess, and shut up in measureless content. Macbeth says, being unprepared, our will became the servant to defect, which else should free have wrought. We weren't ready to entertain the king. We just did the best we could. All's well, Banquo says. I dreamt last night of the three weird sisters. To you they have showed some truth. Macbeth says, I think not of them. Is that true? No, he does nothing but think of them. Yet when we can entreat an hour to serve, we would spend it in some words upon that business if you would grant the time. I'd like to talk to you about it. At your kindest leisure. If you shall cleave to my consent, when 'tis, it shall make honor for you. If you listen to me, if you stay on my side, you'll get honor out of it. He says, so I lose none in seeking to augment it, but still keep my bosom franchised and my allegiance clear, I shall be counseled. Banquo refuses to do anything against his conscience. I'll be glad to increase in honor, but only if I can do it the right way. Macbeth says, good repose the while. Thanks, sir, the like to you. And they leave. Macbeth says to a servant, go bid thy mistress, when my drink is ready, she strike upon the bell. Get thee to bed. Now, the bell, we're going to find out, isn't when his drink's ready, it's when they're ready to murder Duncan. Now he's sitting there, and suddenly he sees like a ghostly dagger floating in the air, which is probably not a good sign. And he says, is this a dagger which I see before me, the handle toward my hand? Come, let me clutch thee. I have thee not, and yet I see thee still. I'm trying to grab it, but I can't. Art thou not, fatal vision, sensible to feeling as to sight? Are you not real? Can I not feel you? Or art thou but a dagger of the mind, a false creation, proceeding from the heat-oppressed brain? I see thee yet, in form as palpable as this which I now draw. You look as real as this dagger of mine. Thou marshallest me the way that I was going, and such an instrument I was to use. Mine eyes are made the fools of the other senses, or else worth all the rest. I see thee still, and on thy blade and dudgeon gouts of blood, which was not so before. There's no such thing. It is the bloody business which informs thus to mine eyes. I'm just hallucinating because I'm worried and upset because I'm about to murder the king. Now o'er the one-half world nature seems dead, and wicked dreams abuse the curtained sleep. Witchcraft celebrates pale Hecate's offerings. Hecate is the queen of the witches. And withered murder, alarmed by his sentinel, the wolf, whose howls his watch, thus with his stealthy pace, with Tarquin's ravishing strides, towards his design moves like a ghost. It's nighttime. This is the time when evil things roam, witches and murder and wolves. Thou sure and firm-set earth, hear not my steps, which way they walk, for fear thy very stones prate of my whereabouts, and take the present horror from the time which now suits with it. Whiles I threat, he lives. Words to the heat of deeds too cold breath gives. Words are not worth anything. Deeds are what's important. And then a bell rings. I go, and it is done. The bell invites me. Hear it not, Duncan, for it is a knell that summons thee to heaven or to hell. All right. In the next scene, we're in Lady Macbeth's, she's in the hallway, she's outside their bedroom. And she says, that which hath made them drunk hath made me bold. Remember, she got the grooms, the attendants, drunk. She's had a nip too, but she doesn't feel sleepy, she feels bold. What hath quenched in them hath given me fire. Hark, peace! It was the owl that shrieked, the fatal bellman, which gives the sternest good night. He is about it. The doors are open. The surfeited grooms, it means full, the surfeited grooms do mock their charge with snores. I have drugged their possets, that death and nature do contend about them whether they live or die. They're so passed out, they look like dead men. Macbeth calls out, Who's there? What? How? And she says, Alack, I am afraid they have awaked, and 'tis not done. The attempt and not the deed confounds us. If we tried to kill him, but we didn't follow through and we got caught, we are in trouble. Hark! I laid their daggers ready. He could not miss 'em. Had he not resembled my father as he slept, I had done it. Macbeth comes in bearing bloody daggers. She says, My husband! I have done the deed. Didst thou not hear a noise? I heard the owl scream and the crickets cry. Did you not speak? When? Now, as I descended? Aye. Hark! Who lies in the second chamber? Donalbain. This is a sorry sight. And he looks at his hands. She said that. Oh no, he said that. She says, a foolish thought to say a sorry sight. There's one did laugh in his sleep, and one cried murder, that they did wake each other. I stood and heard them, but they did say their prayers and address them again to sleep. There are two lodged together. One cried, God bless us, and amen the other, as they had seen me with these hangmen's hands. Listening their fear, I could not say amen when they did say God bless us. Consider it not so deeply. But wherefore could I not pronounce amen? I had most need of blessing, and amen stuck in my throat. These deeds must not be thought after these ways, so it will make us mad. Don't think these things. Don't worry. Methought I heard a voice cry, Sleep no more. Macbeth does murder sleep. The innocent sleep. Sleep that knits up the raveled sleeve of care. The balm of each day's life, sore labor's bath, balm of hurt minds, great nature's second course, chief nourisher in life's feast. She says, what do you mean? Still it cried, sleep no more to all the house. Glamis hath murdered sleep, and therefore Cawdor shall sleep no more. Macbeth shall sleep no more. He knows he's done something irrevocable, and he feels like a voice cried out, there's no more sleep for you. Sleep, he says, that is the balm of hurt minds, that we need for recuperation. Not for you, Macbeth. Lady Macbeth says, who was it that thus cried? Why, worthy Thane, you do unbend your noble strength to think so brain-sickly of things. Yeah, no, you were just hearing things. Go get some water and wash this filthy witness from your hands. And then she realizes what he's done. Why did you bring these daggers from the place? They must lie there. Go carry them and smear the sleepy grooms with blood. I'll go no more. I am afraid to think what I have done. Look on it again, I dare not. Infirm of purpose, give me the daggers. The sleeping and the dead are but as pictures. 'Tis the eye of childhood that fears a painted devil. If he do bleed, I'll gild the faces of the grooms withal, for it must seem their guilt. She's like, I'll do it. You loser, I'll do it. Give me the daggers, and if he's still bleeding, I'll take his blood and I'll smear it on them. I'll gild them like covering metal with gold leaf, for it must seem their guilt. It's kind of a pun. She takes the dagger and they hear knocking. Whence is that knocking? How is it with me when every noise appalls me? What hands are here? They will pluck out mine eyes. Will all great Neptune's ocean wash this blood clean from my hand? No, this my hand will weather the multitudinous seas incarnadine, making the green one red. He looks at his bloody hands. He says, oh, will the whole ocean ever wash this off? No. Rather, if I try to wash my hands in the ocean, they'll turn the ocean red. He doesn't mean that literally, but he means that his guilt, like there's no way to wash away the guilt. Okay, so Lady Macbeth has done what she said. She smeared the grooms with blood and she's come back and her hands are bloody too now. And she says, my hands are of your color, but I shame to wear a heart so white. We're both bloody, but you're just got a cowardly heart and I don't. I hear knocking in. I hear a knocking at the south entry. Retire we to our chamber. We need to go to the bedroom to make it look like we've been in bed. A little water clears us of this deed. How easy it is then! Your constancy hath left you unattended. You're not being firm of purpose. Hark! More knocking! Get on your nightgown, lest occasion calls us and shows us to be watchers. We don't want anyone to know that we're still awake. Be not lost so poorly in your thoughts. To know my deed, 'twere best not know myself. Wake Duncan with thy knocking. I wouldst thou couldst. All right, now the scene shifts and we're at the front door. And they have a porter, a guy who answers the door for them. And he goes on this long kind of weird talk. And the gist of this is he's pretending, what if I were the doorman of hell? What sort of people would I be letting in? And he lists some of the sort of people he might let into hell. The joke, it's not a funny ha-ha joke, but the irony here is that he really is sort of the porter of hell. Macbeth's castle has become a hell of dark murder and lies. Okay, so there's knocking. Here's a knocking indeed. If a man were porter of Hellgate, he should have old turning the key. Knock, knock, knock. Who's there in the name of Beelzebub? Here's a farmer that hanged himself on the expectation of plenty. Come in time. Have napkins enow about you. Here you'll sweat for it. Knock, knock. Who's there in the other devil's name? Faith, here's an equivocator that could swear in both the scales against either scale, who committed treason enough for God's sake, yet could not equivocate to heaven. Oh, come in, equivocator. Knock, knock, knock. Who's there? Faith, here's an English tailor come hither for stealing out of a French hose. Come in, tailor. Here you may roast your goose. Knock, knock. Never it quiet. What are you? But this place is too cold for hell. I'll devil porter it no further. I had thought to have let in some of all the professions that go the primrose way to the everlasting bonfire. Anon, anon. Finally he opens the gate. I pray you, remember the porter. In comes a man named Macbeth, another one of the Scottish lords, and Lennox, who we met before. Was it so late, friend, ere you went to bed, that you do lie so late? Why are you so slow getting to the door? We been party? Faith, sir, we were carousing till the second cock, and drink, sir, is a great provoker of three things. What three things does drink especially provoke? Marry, sir, nose painting, sleep, and urine. It makes your nose red, makes you pass out and sleep, and makes you pee. Lechery, sir, it provokes and unprovokes. It provokes the desire, but takes away the performance. Therefore much drink may be said to be an equivocator with lechery. It makes him and mars him, sets him on and takes him off, persuades him and disheartens him, makes him stand to and not stand to. In conclusion, equivocates him and asleep, and giving him the lie, leaves him. Lechery, it makes him want women, but it makes you so staggering drunk that you can't chase the women. I believe drink gave thee the lie last night, sir. That did, sir, in the very throat on me, but I requited him for his lie, and I think being too strong for him, though he took up my legs sometime, yet I made a shift to cast him. In other words, he kind of made me drunk, but I threw up. Lovely guy, the porter. Macbeth comes in. Our knocking has waked him. Here he comes. Oh, I'm sorry. Macbeth says, is thy master stirring? Sorry. Our knocking has waked him. Here he comes. Good morrow, noble sir. Macbeth says, good morrow both. Is the king stirring, worthy thane? Not yet. He did command me to call timely on him. I've almost slipped the hour. I'll bring you to him. I know this is a joyful trouble to you, but yet 'tis one. The labor we delight in physics pain. Macbeth's like, this is probably trouble entertaining the king and, having visitors at the early morning hours. And Macbeth's like, oh, it's nothing. It's no trouble. Here's the door. I'll make so bold to call, for 'tis my limited service. Macbeth goes in to visit the king. And Lennox asked, goes the king hence today? He does. He did appoint so. The night has been unruly. Where we lay, our chimneys were blown down, and as they say, lamentings heard in the air, strange screams of death, and prophesying with accents terrible of dire combustion and confused events, new hatched to the woeful time. The obscure bird clamored the livelong night. Some say the earth was feverous and did shake. So Lennox says, the weather was wild last night. It was crazy, and owls were hooting all night, and it was wild. Now, in Shakespeare plays, often disruption of the state, disruption of the normal state of things, is reflected in nature. When kings die, when kings have a problem, all nature has a problem. Macbeth agrees. 'Twas a rough night. My young remembrance cannot parallel a fellow to it. I can't remember a night so bad. Macbeth comes in. He's been into the king's chamber. He comes in and he says, oh, horror, horror, horror. Tongue nor heart cannot conceive nor name thee. They say, what's the matter? Confusion now hath made his masterpiece. Most sacrilegious murder hath broke ope the Lord's anointed temple and stolen thence the life of the building. Who's the Lord's anointed temple? The king, the anointed king. Someone stole in and stole his life. Macbeth says, what is it you say, the life? Mean you his majesty? Approach the chamber and destroy your sight with a new Gorgon. You know how looking at Medusa turns you to stone? I think when you look at this, it's going to turn you to stone. Do not bid me speak. See, and then speak yourselves. They go into the chamber, but Macbeth keeps calling out to everyone to wake up. Awake, awake, ring the alarm bell. Murder and treason. Banquo and Donalbain, Malcolm, awake. Shake off this downy sleep, death's counterfeit, and look on death itself. Up, up, and see the great doom's image. Malcolm, Banquo, as from your graves rise up and walk like sprites to countenance this horror. Ring the bell. Like all you people who are asleep, sleep kind of looks like death. Wake up from the thing that looks like death. Wake up and come see real death. Lady Macbeth comes in and she says, "What's the business that such a hideous trumpet calls to parley the sleepers of the house? Speak, speak." "Oh, gentle lady, 'tis not for you to hear what I can speak. The repetition in a woman's ear would murder as it fell." What he knows. She helped do it, and she has not to be a woman anymore, a lady. Banquo comes in. "Oh, Banquo, Banquo, our royal master's murdered." Lady Macbeth says, "Woe, alas, what, in our house?" Banquo says, "Too cruel anywhere. Dear Duff, I prithee, contradict thyself and say it is not so." Macbeth comes back with Lennox and Ross. "Had I but died an hour before this chance, I had lived a blessed time. For from this instant there's nothing serious in mortality. All is but toys." I wish I died before this happened. "Renown and grace is dead. The wine of life is drawn, and the mere lees is left this vault to brag of. All the good of life, like the wine in a cask, is gone. And it's just the lees, the dregs, are left." Now here come Malcolm and Donalbain. They're Duncan's sons. Donalbain, "What is amiss?" "You are, and do not know it. The spring, the head, the fountain of your blood is stopped. The very source of it is stopped. Your royal father's murdered." "By whom?" "Those of his chamber, as it seemed, had done it. Their hands and faces were all badged with blood. So were their daggers, which unwiped we found upon their pillows. They stared and were distracted. No man's life was to be trusted with them." Macbeth says, "Oh, yet I do repent me of my fury that I did kill them." Macbeth killed the grooms. So they won't talk in case they heard anything. But he's going to pretend that's not the reason. Macduff says, "Wherefore did you do so?" He says, Who can be wise, amazed, temperate and furious, loyal and neutral in a moment? Who can think straight when you're just amazed at what's happened? You're just stunned. No man. The expedition of my violent love outrun the pauser reason. Here lay Duncan, his silver skin laced with the golden blood, and his gashed stabs looked like a breach in nature for ruin's wasteful entrance. There the murderers, steeped in the colors of their trade, their daggers unmannerly breached with gore. Who could refrain, that had a heart to love, and in that heart courage to make love known? Now, Lady Macbeth sees, Macbeth killed the grooms, and people are wondering why I need to create a distraction. She's, "Help me hence, ho!" She's fainting. She's not really fainting. She helped kill him. Macduff says, "Look to the lady." Malcolm takes Donalbain aside, his brother, and says, "Why do we hold our tongues, that most may claim this argument for ours?" This is our fight, and we're just standing here not saying anything. Donalbain answers, "What should be spoken here, where our fate, hid in an auger hole, may rush and seize us? Let's away, our tears are not yet brewed, nor our strong sorrow upon the foot of motion." Right? They're worried. We don't know what to say because maybe we're next. We know we didn't do it. We don't know who did do it, but they may be coming for us next. Banquo says, "Look to the lady," and they carry Lady Macbeth out. "And when we have our naked frailties hid, that suffer exposure, when we put on our clothes, let us meet and question this most bloody piece of work, to know it further. Fears and scruples shake us. In the great hand of God I stand, and thence against the undivulged pretense I fight of treasonous malice." All right? I am innocent, and I'm not afraid to dig to the bottom of this. And so do I. So all. Let's briefly put on manly readiness and meet in the hall together. Well contented. They all leave except Malcolm and Donalbain. What will you do? Let's not consort with them. To show an unfelt sorrow is an easy office which the false man does easy. Okay, all these guys seem really sorry that Dad's dead, but pretending to be sorry is so easy. I'll go to England. Donalbain says, to Ireland, I. Our separated fortune shall keep us both the safer. If we're both in the same place and somebody's after us, they can get us both together. If we go to separate places, we'll be safer. Where we are, there's daggers and men's smiles. The near in blood, the nearer bloody. The closer related you are to the person killed, the more you're in danger, and the more they might suspect you of doing it. This murderous shaft that shot hath not yet lighted, and our safest way is to avoid the aim. Somebody might be aiming at us. Therefore to horse, and let us not be dainty of leave-taking, but shift away. There's warrant in that theft which steals itself when there's no mercy left. It's a good idea to steal yourself away when you fear there's no mercy left for you. Okay, next scene is outside the castle. Ross, the nobleman Ross, is speaking with an old man. The old man says, 70 I can remember well, within the volume of which time I have seen hours dreadful and things strange. But this sore night hath trifled former knowings. Remember earlier they were talking about it was such a bad night? This old man says, I've lived, 70 years? I don't remember a night like this. Ross says, ha, good father, thou seest the heavens as troubled with man's act, threatens his bloody stage. By the clock 'tis day, and yet dark night strangles the travelling lamp. Is it night's predominance or the day's shame, that darkness does the face of earth entomb, when living light should kiss it? It's dark outside. It's supposed to be light, but it's dark. 'Tis unnatural, even like the deed that's done. On Tuesday last, a falcon, towering in her pride of place, was by a mousing owl hawked at and killed. Yeah, everything's unnatural. A falcon, a noble beast, bird of prey, was killed by an owl, a lowly owl chasing mice. The lower creature killed the higher creature. That just happened. The lower creature, Macbeth, just killed the higher creature, Duncan. And Duncan's horses, a thing most strange and certain, beauteous and swift, the minions of their race, turned wild in nature, broke their stalls, flung out, contending against obedience, as they would make war with mankind. 'Tis said they ate each other. They did so, to the amazement of mine eyes that looked upon it. Duncan's horses ate each other. Macduff comes in and says, "Here comes the good." They say, "Here comes the good Macduff. How goes the world, sir, now?" "Why, see you not? Look around. It's dark. How do you think the world goes?" "Is it known who did this more than bloody deed?" "Those that Macbeth hath slain." "Alas, the day! What good could they pretend? Why would they do that?" "They were suborned. Someone hired them. Malcolm and Donalbain, the king's 2 sons, are stolen away and fled, which puts upon them suspicion of the deed. We think they hired somebody to kill their dad." "'Gainst nature still, thriftless ambition, that will raven up thine own life's means. Then 'tis most like the sovereignty will fall upon Macbeth." Since Malcolm and Donalbain ran off, Malcolm was the heir apparent, and we think maybe they hired someone to kill their dad. Looks like Macbeth's going to be king. He is already named and gone to Scone to be invested. Where is Duncan's body? Carried to Colmkill, the sacred storehouse of his predecessors, and guardian of their bones. Will you to Scone, which is the town where they crown their kings? No, cousin, I'll to Fife, which is his home. Well, I will thither. Well, may you see things well done there. Adieu, lest our old robes sit easier than our new. Farewell, father. God's benison go with you, and with those that would make good of bad, and friends of foes. Okay, so now we've moved on. Macbeth has been crowned king. We're in Act 3. Let me see, I see that we're an hour and a half in. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to read a few more scenes of this and then take a break. And then I'll film the one to watch next week, You could watch both of these back to back if you just want to sit down for 3 hours and read the whole thing. That's up to you. Okay, in Act 3, we are at the palace, and Banquo is having a talk with himself. And he says, "Thou hast it now, King, Cawdor, Glamis, all as the weird women promised, and I fear thou playedst most foully for it." Oh, Macbeth, you've got it all, everything those witches said you would, and I fear thou playedst most foully for it. I think you were up to no good. I think you had something to do with the king's death. Yet it was said it should not stand in thy posterity, but that myself should be the root and father of many kings. All right, you may be king, but those witches said you wouldn't have a dynasty. My children are going to be kings. If there comes truth from them, as upon thee, Macbeth, their speeches shine. Why, by the verities on thee made good, may they not be my oracles as well, and set me up in hope? I don't know what you had to do with it, Macbeth, but they did prove true. So I should have hope that my children will also be kings. But hush, no more. And in comes the king, the queen, Lady Macbeth, and all the lords in attendance. Macbeth sees Banquo and he says, "Here's our chief guest." Lady Macbeth, "If he had been forgotten, it had been as a gap in our great feast, and all thing unbecoming. Tonight we'll hold a solemn supper, sir, and I'll request your presence." Banquo says, "Let your highness command upon me, to the which my duties are with the most indissoluble tie forever knit." "Ride you this afternoon?" "Aye, my good lord." "We should have else desired your good advice, which still hath been both grave and prosperous in this day's council, but we'll take tomorrow. I wish you'd been around this afternoon to give me some advice in our council of state, but I know you were planning to go riding, so I'll let you." "Is it far you ride?" "As far, my lord, as will fill up the time twixt this and supper. Go not my horse the better, I must become a borrower of the night for a dark hour or twain. Unless my horse goes faster than I think, it's probably going to be dark before I get back." "Fail not our feast." "My lord, I will not." "We hear our bloody cousins are bestowed in England and in Ireland, not confessing their cruel parricide, filling their hearers with strange invention." "Oh, I've heard Malcolm and Donalbain are in England and Ireland, and they're telling stories." And I wonder if the stories are about Macbeth. "But of that tomorrow. Then when therewithal we shall have cause of state craving us jointly. Hie you to your horse. Adieu, till you return at night." "Goes Fleance with you?" "Aye, my good lord. Our time does call upon us. Sorry, it's time to go. I've got to go. I wish your horses swift and sure of foot, and so I do commend you to their backs. Farewell. Let every man be master of his time till 7 at night. To make society the sweeter welcome, we will keep ourselves till supper time alone. Well then, God be with you." So he's like, everybody go hang out, do whatever you want till supper time at 7, and just so that I'll be happy to see all of you, I'm just going to stay by myself for the afternoon. Everyone leaves, but he calls a servant in. He says, "Sirrah, a word with you. Attend those men our pleasure?" "They are, my lord, without the palace gate." "Bring them before us." Now Macbeth is going to have another talk with himself. To be thus is nothing, but to be safely thus. To be king, it's nothing unless I'm safely king. Our fears in Banquo stick deep, and in his royalty of nature reigns that which would be feared. I'm afraid of Banquo. First of all, because it's predicted he's going to have kings as his children. Second of all, he's just a good man. And I think he suspects me. 'Tis much he dares, and to that dauntless temper of his mind he hath a wisdom that doth guide his valor to act in safety. There is none but he whose being I do fear, and under him my genius is rebuked, as it is said Mark Antony's was by Caesar. Excuse me. He chid the sisters when first they put the name of king upon me and bade them speak to him. Now he's looking back at what happened. He's sort of putting a spin on it. Oh, I remember when the witches were talking to me. He just wanted them to talk to him. It wasn't really like that.
Then prophet-like they hailed him father to a line of kings. Upon my head they placed a fruitless crown, and put a barren scepter in my grip, thence to be wrenched with a unilineal hand, no son of mine succeeding. Man, I'm not going to get to have a son that's king. Banquo's going to get to have a son that's king. I don't like that. If it be so, for Banquo's issue have I filed my mind. For them, the gracious Duncan, have I murdered, put rancors in the vessel of my peace, only for them, and mine eternal jewel given to the common enemy of man to make them kings, the seeds of Banquo kings. All right, I just sold my soul to the devil and committed murder for Banquo's family. Rather than so, come fate into the list and champion me to the utterance. Oh, I'm going to do something about it. Who's there? The servant comes in and he brings two guys. They're described as two murderers. And he tells the servant, now go to the door and stay there till we call. And he turns to the murderers and he says, was it not yesterday we spoke together? It was, as please your highness. Well then now, have you considered of my speeches? Know that it was he that in times past which held you so under fortune, which you thought had been our innocent self. You know, you used to have a grudge against me. You thought I did something to kind of keep you down, but it was Banquo. I explained to you that it was Banquo. This I made good to you in our last conference. Passed in probation with you, how you were born in hand, how crossed, the instruments, who wrought with them, and all things else that might to half a soul and to a notion crazed say, thus did Banquo. I gave you lots of evidence that Banquo is the one who's been messing with you, not me. You made it known to us. He says, I did so and went further, which is now our point of second meeting. Do you find your patience so predominant in your nature that you can let this go? Are you so gospeled to pray for this good man and for his issue, whose heavy hand hath bowed you to the grave and beggared yours forever? Are you so nice that you can just let this go? We are men, my liege. Remember, in their case, they think men will do anything. Remember, Macbeth had said, I'll do everything that becomes a man. He who does more is none. These guys don't have that same code. Macbeth doesn't have that same code anymore, either does he? Aye, in the catalogue you go for men, as hounds and greyhounds, mongrels, spaniels, curs, shuffs, water rugs, and demi-wolves are clept all by the name of dogs. Yeah, you technically you're men, like all those are technically in the list of dogs. The valued file distinguishes the swift, the slow, the subtle, the housekeeper, the hunter, every one according to the gift which bounteous nature hath in him closed, whereby he does receive particular addition from the bill that writes them all alike, and so of men. You know, but somebody who knows dogs separates them out and says, okay, this dog's a good hunter, this dog's a good watchdog, this dog's a good, playful, a good pet, good with children. Well, it's the case with men too. Technically you're men, but we need to see of what value you are as men. Now, if you have a station in the file, not in the worst rank of manhood, say it. If you're not the lowest sort of man, say so. And I will put that business in your bosoms whose execution takes your enemy off, grapples you to the heart and love of us, who wear our health but sickly in this life, which in his death were perfect. Hey, you want to be real men? You want to be the better sort of men? Go take care of this business for me. And, you're going to make me so happy. You'll be my best friends because you'll have gotten rid of someone that I just dread the existence of. And they answer, I am one, my liege, whom the vile blows and buffets of the world hath so incensed that I am reckless what I do despite the world. Life's treated me so poorly, I don't care what I do. And I another, so weary with disasters, tugged with fortune, that I would set my life on any chance to mend it or be rid on it. He says, both of you know Banquo was your enemy. True, my lord. So he is mine, and in such bloody distance that every minute of his being thrusts against my nearest of life. And though I could with barefaced power sweep him from my sight, and bid my will avouch it, yet I must not. I'm the king. I could just have him executed. I could just get rid of him. But I must not. For certain friends that are both his and mine, whose loves I may not drop, but wail his fall, who I myself struck down. All right, I'm going to offend some people if they know I had something to do with it, so I have to pretend to be upset. And thence it is that I to your assistance do make love, masking the business from the common eye for sundry weighty measures. I got to keep this hush-hush. We shall, my lord, perform what you command us. Though our lives, Macbeth interrupts him, your spirits shine through you. Within this hour at most I will advise you where to plant yourselves, acquaint you with the perfect spy of the time, the moment on it, for it must be done tonight, and something from the palace. Don't do it too close to the palace. Do it away. Always thought that I require cleanness. I don't want anyone to know I had something to do with this. And with him, to leave no rubs or botches in the work, Fleance his son, that keeps him company, whose absence is no less material to me than his father's, must embrace the fate of that dark hour. You got to kill Fleance too, or it doesn't do me any good, because if Fleance is alive, then Banquo's descendants could still be kings. Resolve yourselves apart. I'll come to you anon. We are resolved, my lord. We don't have to think it over. We're going to do it. I'll call upon you straight. Abide within. And they leave. And Macbeth says, it is concluded, Banquo. Thy soul's flight, if it find heaven, must find it out tonight. Okay, for this session, I'm going to take a break here at the end of scene 1. Like I said, I'm going to post the second half of this. I think I'll go ahead, if I can remember to do this, I think I'll go ahead and post them both the same week and call them Macbeth Part 1 and Macbeth Part 2. And you can watch them all in a row if you want to know what happens next, or you can treat them as 2 weeks in a row. All right? I'd love to hear your comments on the play. So I will see you back here either immediately if you want to just watch the rest, and if not, next week. All right. Have a good one. Bye-bye.